What kind of wood pellets do you have with the Traeger?
We're using the signature blend.
Okay. See, this is what people have to understand. The wood pellets, that's the magic here. And you get that smell. And then that was cooking for 12 hours. And then Alan took it off last night. And then we're just heating it up again. I look forward to Fridays. I really do. What was it like, though, that first time you step on the floor with a guy that you've idolized, and now all of a sudden he's right there in front of you?
Okay, so like say with him, Barkley, Bird, the greatest players that I looked up to, whether it was because I first got a chance to play against Jordan in the Dream Team, and I'm telling you, in the huddle, my eyes are watering, looking at other guys like this is our moment, and
Wait, you're crying?
my eyes are watering. I'm not crying, but I mean, I guess I'm holding tears back. But this is a moment, I'm
Yeah.
playing against my hero. I mean, it's Larry Bird, Jordan, Malone and Barkley over there, man. And I'm looking at Grant Hill, I'm looking at Rodney Rogers and um, Hurley, and we're all looking like, man, we're here. This is that moment we'll never forget. And so playing against Jordan and all those greats, we grew up on them. So the only way to honor them is to act like or to do what they put in you and instilled in you. So even though you're the biggest fan, there's no time for, hey, Jordan, I love you, because that's not what he would want. There's no time for that with Barkley. So what you try to do is emulate what they would have done on the court. And that's just try to fake it like you're tough until you get off and call your dad and be like, man, I played against Jordan.
Did you get embarrassed?
No, we beat the Dream Team the first day, and then the next day we didn't score. So we got embarrassed, but we got embarrassed after we reached the mountaintop, so we didn't care, man.
Give me a Kobe story I don't know.
Wow, a Kobe story you don't know. I don't know how good of a story this is, but not to waste time thinking about it. I remember, don't know what year it was. It was the Afro Kobe. It was Afro Kobe. He was wearing.
Wait, hold on, Chris. Paulie, check the Afro Kobe. What year
I
that
think
would have
that's
been?
99. I think it's 99, but I'll check.
Okay.
So that's good stats. You know the game. But the year before he had been criticized, or someone said something about him being weak in the fourth quarter. We went to dinner or something, and he brought this up, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, we really gonna talk about this now? And so whatever. It was in passing. And so we played them. Sacramento. We always used to play them in the preseason in Vegas or something. And so I hadn't seen Kobe in a while, and he texted me or something, and we run it out. We run a play, the first couple plays of the game, and he comes by, bang, and he hits me real hard. I'm looking at him like, what's wrong with you, man? Comes back, bang, he hits me real hard. And so at halftime, he's like, you feel that? I'm getting stronger, right? I'm getting stronger, right? And I mean, it was from our conversation. I think the greatest thing about those is like how I've heard that a great pitcher, you have to not have a great memory. You can't remember the guy that hit a home run on you. You only focus on the next one. The great things about those guys, they never let anything go. Even if it is, like I used to have a superstition that you can't have a superstition. That was my only superstition. If you play a great game in these shoes, so what? Don't play in them again because nothing can get in your mind. Like, so what? The shoes didn't do it. And for Kobe and Jordan and those guys, I think that their memory and motivation, their memory came from their motivation, even if it was off a successful game, challenging themselves to outdo that game last time. And so it's definitely a winner's mentality with those kids, with those guys.
You've told us some Jordan stories when you guys faced them in the playoffs. Did he drive up in? Did he have a Ferrari or Lamborghini? And was he waiting for you guys on the team bus?
So Dan, I'm very happy that they showed Jordan with the cigars as much as he smoked.
Yeah.
Because I've told this story. I think I told you guys, and no one wants to believe it because a Cohiba, I mean, try playing golf. A second nine is terrible if I smoke a Cohiba on the first.
It'll make you dizzy. You get lightheaded.
Come on. I mean, I knew baseball players that dipped. I knew, like, that is real. And so, yeah, we're coming in. I don't want to mess it up with missing out on what game it was, but we're playing against the Bulls, the best team ever, 72. Juwan from Chicago worked out with Jordan a lot. I'm a big fan of Jordan. And I knew, like, with him, you don't put on a blindfold and a cigarette. Like, just open your eyes and take it and enjoy the moment. Just go. And so I really feel I'm a really good teammate because I was always about my teammates. That was my goal, like, to get you the ball, to make sure, because they do so much for you. And this is the one day I wasn't a good friend or a teammate. We pull into the Bulls arena, right up under there where you're parking. You can see little restaurants and everything. And getting off with my suit and my bag, you know, in game mode. And Juwan is in front of me walking off the bus. I'm talking junk to him, whispering in his ear. And we get off the bus, and directly across, like a cartoon, like a movie, like Shaft. Yeah, he was like Shaft. Like Jordan was sitting back on the Ferrari, smoking a cigar before the game. And this series, I think we played them 3 games and they only beat us by 7 points total. So we thought we were hot stuff. And we get off, and he goes, "Hey, Webb, who's checking me?" And I looked at Juwan, and we both looked back at Calbert Chaney and did like this. That was so whack of us, man. That was so wrong of us, man. And I think he gave us 53, 55 or something, something like that. It was so crazy. I remember telling Juwan when Jordan was on the free throw line, I was like, he sold his soul. He sold his soul to the devil to be good in basketball. And he looked at me like, maybe I did, maybe I didn't.
Paulie just informed me, because I said, wait a minute here. You're trying to tell me the all-time Golden State Warrior team includes Wilt Chamberlain, who played for the Philadelphia Warriors. This is on ESPN.com. So Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, Wilt Chamberlain. Are these the best players or the best team according to the ESPN NBA writers?
Quote, we asked our NBA writers to come up with an all-time starting 5 for every current NBA franchise, along with an old-time team or something. Only players' contributions during the time with that franchise were considered. That means LeBron James wouldn't be on the Lakers. And it's basically what team you'd compete with. But you can't. It has to be a team. It has to be a team like by position. You can't have 4 centers.
No, you can. Look at the Lakers. They got Kareem and Shaq.
Yeah.
They got Jerry West and Kobe Bryant are shooting guards.
They added some flexibility in choosing a lineup, but you won't see a team with 4 centers or 3-point guards.
No, there's 2 centers on here, not 3.
The idea was to dive into a team's history and create a group that could potentially share the floor together. It's about building a team from your...
Okay, Rick Barry should be on there instead of Klay Thompson. Okay? Rick Barry should be on there instead of Draymond Green. Wilt Chamberlain didn't play for the Golden State Warriors. He played for the Philadelphia Warriors.
They're counting that because it's the Warriors franchise, even different city.
Please. You can put Nate Thurman in there if you want to, but not Wilt Chamberlain. See, I was doing well, Paulie. I almost made it. I had a half hour to go.
Should I say this for Monday?
No, we're not here Monday. And don't save it for Tuesday either. The Lakers have Magic, Jerry West, Kobe Bryant, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Shaquille O'Neal. So that right there, their logic is flawed, or the criteria is flawed. I got 2 shooting guards, and I've got 2 centers for the Lakers. The Rockets have James Harden, Calvin Murphy, Tracy McGrady, Rudy Tomjanovich, Hakeem Olajuwon. I'm fine with that. I'm sure there's somebody who's left out.
You know, the one that bothers me the most is the great starting 5 for the history of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Ricky Rubio is on the all-time starting 5. What did he do? Wow. He was an average to below-average player.
Chris Mannix has to be thrilled.
No offense.
Yeah, no offense. No offense taken. Why did Jordan do this documentary?
That's a really good question. I have thought about that endlessly. Now, I never asked him because I hadn't talked to him since it came out. But, like, I feel like, you know, the producer came to pitch him on the morning of one of LeBron's championship parades.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, I might have been born at night, but it wasn't last night. I feel like one of the most interesting things about it to me is that it exists, and that, you know, it's important to Michael that after, you know, you saw, was at the end of episode 7 when he started crying, thinking about how he treated people and all that this had cost. I mean, I felt like it's important to him that people remember because he sacrificed a lot for it. And it felt to me that it was, an attempt to remind people, hey, this is what it was like. This is who I was. If you heard Tiger Woods talk about how his kids thought he was a YouTube golfer, Michael Jordan has 6-year-old twins, which I have a 2-year-old toddler, and I'm just getting crushed. I don't know how he's doing it. Although I bet he's got more staff than I've got. Still,
I'm going to guess. But right, there was part of me that felt sorry for Jordan in that documentary, because we can look at him and say this made him great. I don't think he can turn that off. I don't know. It was a weird feeling I had. And you spent time with him. Does that make any sense to you?
I have long felt like Michael Jordan is actively engaged in what to do with all of the traits that he so carefully nurtured in himself. And I think that he has thought about that since he retired. And I think that's what the Wizards was. I think that's what the Hall of Fame speech was. I think he is actively engaged in dealing with the idea and the cost of having been Michael Jordan.
What was it that you unearthed that was one of those epiphanies that said, oh, that explains this?
Well, then for 5 or 6, if you count Michael, generations, they have lived in a pretty narrow wedge of North Carolina. People say he's from Wilmington, and that's true, but not really. His family is from the country outside of Wilmington. And when you see Michael Jordan as country, and when you see Michael Jordan as having these long rural roots in one tight area of land, you start to realize, one, the things that influenced him and shaped him to be the person that we know, and also all of the souls he carried with him every time he stepped on the court. It really reframed him in a way that I'd never thought about before. And it was as simple as me going and finding his ancestors and seeing where his dad grew up and lived, and the cemetery at the country church where his dad's buried, and literally just putting those little stars on Google Maps and looking at it and be like, this is all in the same place. And it was no more complicated than that at first.
Speaking of drinking, can you talk about this book that you've written on Pappy Van Winkle?
We're still finishing it, so not a lot, except that it is, it's a story about the history of Pappy Van Winkle bourbon wrapped in with, I guess, my own story. It's a story about a man who makes whiskey and about a man who drinks it. And, I had all these grand literary ambitions because it's really genre bending, and I'm really proud of that part of it. And then somebody read it and was like, oh, it's Eat, Pray, Love for Men. So it's sort of like, I was like, well, yeah, I guess it's that too. I did want to let you, do something cool for your huge and sprawling audience of listeners. So it's available for pre-sale now. It's called Pappyland. Anybody that goes out and can tweet out a screenshot that says you bought it, you pre-ordered it, and hashtag it Pappyland so I can find it, and then write a sentence or two about who you want to drink a bottle of this with and why, because ultimately what the book is about is the community of bourbon. And this thing comes out November 10th. And so just keep these things coming, and I'm going to look at all of them, and whichever one moves me the most personally, I'm going to send somebody a free bottle of Pappy. So pre-order the book, write about who you'd want to share a bottle with and why, tweet it, hashtag Pappyland, and I'm going to send somebody a bottle, because that's what this stuff is really about. It's not about hoarding. It's about sharing, and it's about sharing it with someone who matters a lot to you. And the rarity and the price tag on the bourbon is a way in which you tell that person you're drinking with that you care about them and you love them. And to me, that's what it's really about.
You hung out with Tiger Woods. Like, the similarities between Tiger and Michael, what is that common thread?
Well, a couple things. One, I've written about Tiger. I haven't spent a lot of time around Tiger, but the thing that's interesting to me is that, they were both Tiger was patterned after Michael, like his public life. And I think the thing that's so interesting that we forget is these aren't widgets just to be replaced. Like, Michael Jordan is an extreme extrovert, and Tiger Woods is an extreme introvert. And so there was a little bit of sort of lack of understanding of the person they were dealing with when they constructed his public persona. And so, I mean, I think the way that, Jordan handled his better than Tiger handled his, because it fit him in a way that being in public didn't fit Tiger. I mean, Jordan is the alpha in the room, so Air Jordan isn't that different from him. And I feel like the public version of Tiger is very different than Tiger.
Treats. That's nice. Simply Nourish. Sent that in. Don't be afraid to sponsor the show there, Simply Nourish, but we'll give you some love here. Thank you for Penny. Penny got some nice treats. I doubt if she's gotten up from her nap, though. She works really hard. This is Officer Edward Fiddler, and this is the Philadelphia Police Crime Scene Unit. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is from the White House. Oh no, it's White House, Texas. My bad. Ooh, pretty sharp. White House, Texas. Thank you, guys. Got a little medallion there as well. This is from the Nashes.
30 seconds.
Plainwell Department of Safety, about 35 minutes south of Grand Rapids. Thank you. What do we have here? This is LAP. Whoa, SWAT. We're not kidding around here. LAPD. And
15.
I think I got one more. Ooh. Colorado State Patrol. This is the Pierces. Colorado State Patrol. Thank you. We will display these proudly. Thank you.
Part of it was I think you didn't need to add drama to this documentary. It was a great show otherwise, the Jordan story. But it was like, they had the beginning and, the theme of 82-0, Jerry Krause, you're never coming back, and that's it. So you got to end the documentary also in a similar way. He didn't want to play that extra year. He could have in any number of ways. So he should have made that up too at the end, that I wish I could have come back. I wanted to come back. He didn't want to come back. I mean, there was a whole team there other than Scotty, who, was limited by the time at the end of the finals, had to have back surgery again, went to Houston, had a poor season, left him there, went to Portland. He was just a role player. So they had Kukoc, Harper, Winnington, Brown. There were numbers. There was a number of the team there, and they had money for free agent. They actually added Brent Barry that season, who was a good free agent. So if he wanted to stay, and Rodman, of course, was coming back for the 1 year, he was begging them for that 1 year deal. And so if he wanted the 1 year and the $40 million, he could have gotten it. And he just didn't want to play. I mean, we saw it with Ahmad in all those scenes that, hey, I've had enough. I'm out of here. I got to move on. So, I mean, but it was a better story to end it that way, to say, hey, yeah, one more chance, going for 7. I should have done, we could have done that. And no, he didn't want to do that. But, the other thing too about that is we always complain about all these athletes, Unitas and Willie Mays and Ricky Henderson, whatever. Why did they do? Why didn't they just quit on top? We did. He quit on top. We should be celebrating that.
The whole flu game now became food poisoning. Why, after all of these years, that Michael never addressed this or clarified it until we got to the documentary? Why would he do it?
Well, it wasn't food poisoning. They made that up. That there were several things based on a true story kind of thing in this, and that was one of them. I mean, I know in our society we like to believe in conspiracies a lot because they're a lot more fun and interesting than the truth. Sort of like Michael being kicked out of the NBA, in which they addressed quite a bit because of the gambling and everything, which obviously wasn't the case. And David Stern and Brian McIntyre and Mark Vancil, any number of people commented on that. People, associated. but he wasn't poisoned. That's not what happened. And I mean the story, if you watched, I mean you did, and watching the documentary, I mean seriously, 5 people, Michael Jordan, the most protected, nobody knows where he is, secure person. All of a sudden, 5 guys from a pizza place. And by the way, who's ordering pizza in Salt Lake City? But beyond that, and they were in Park City. You know, they
What
weren't
do you
even in
What do you think happened, Sam?
he was ill. There's no question. I think he had something that wasn't as manly as maybe some other episodes. I think because what they were doing, they were going up to Park City in the mountains in the ski area to stay. That's where they stayed. So they had to practice in Salt Lake City. So they kept coming in and out, in and out. And I think it was altitude sickness. The symptoms that he had fit that much more than anything else that he had. And so there was some sort of illness. There was no question he was ill. I wouldn't deny that. He definitely was.
Yeah.
He was sick, but he wasn't poisoned.
Why do you think Michael singled out Horace?
Well, I think because you saw this and, some of the reaction after the last dance with Horace and some of the players, being upset, sort of their documentary, I'm cutting in. Horace stood up to Michael a lot back then. And, a lot of the elements of the documentary early on, settling grudges kind of thing. Michael takes names and remembers. So, Jerry Krause, Isaiah, and Horace in an odd way was sort of a protector for Scotty. Early on,
Really?
Scotty early on, they were incredibly close. I mean, literally would call each other before every game to decide what they were wearing, went out and bought the same cars, bought the same dogs. They were inseparable. But Scotty was kind of seduced by Michael's aura and the attention with Michael, and he would gravitate over toward Michael. And then Michael, when he was sort of in his arc there, he didn't always, we've seen, he didn't always treat you with perhaps the respect you'd like. So Scotty would come back to Horace and complain about, what he said to me and this and sort of that. And so Horace would stand up to Mike sometimes. And, when things happen, he wasn't as articulate, as quick, as facile. And so it didn't come off as cleverly. But that they had a long history of that. And then of course, Horace being the one when he left and went to Orlando. And when the year Michael came back in 95, it was Horace who really, of course, Shaq and Penny were the best players. But what Phil had done in that series, realizing Horace not a great shooter, he doubled off Horace every time. Horace shot like 70% in the series, really hits the winning baskets. And then the Magic players lift him on their shoulders, carry him off. Horace raising his hand, sort of pointing at Michael.
Oh.
By the way, there was no, after the end of that series, there was no teammates players going to congratulate the other team. Michael stalked off pretty fast after that one too. So he remembers a lot of evidence with Horace.
Okay, I'm not a coleslaw guy.
Okay. A lot of people like coleslaw and pulled pork.
But I would rather have pickles.
I'm with you there too.
Maybe Tyler, the moderator, could get me some pickles. And I know I sound like I'm being ungrateful.
No, it's personal preference.
But this looks like it's been simmering for 12
It's juicy, it's not dry.
hours. Well, that's the beauty of the Traeger grill.
So many times people ruin pulled pork and make it all dry. But yeah, coleslaw's big. Pickles are great, even on the side.
And there they go. Pickles.
There's a little mustard in the coleslaw.
Maybe see, now I gotta. Nobody can have any pickles because now I put
Did you use your fingers?
Yeah, well.
You could feed those to me from your hands. But next to you more than next to me.
I'm gonna try this.
Man, you can by yourself.
Mm-hmm. Oh. That's EV. I didn't see the whole floor.
Go a little stinker.
Wow.
Yeah. It's so juicy. I really, really nail it. This is like a hot vinegar. It's got a little kick. It's not like a hot, kind of that hot chicken taste.
Wow.
We have to do another segment.
Man. Go around the room on what we learned on this program. Todd, I'll start with you.
Chris Webber surprised to see Michael Jordan smoking a cigar right before a playoff game against him.
Chris Webber, if you didn't hear the interview, he's wonderful. He's one of our favorite guests. He really is great. He just tells stories. McLovin.
We've heard the story before, but C-Web kind of sold out Calbert Cheney in this story about Jordan.
Okay, yeah. Seton O'Connor.
Chris Webber's only superstition is not to have any superstitions.
Which is a superstition. Paulie?
Chris Webber's barn looks like a mix of the Hoosiers gym and the Hinkle Fieldhouse at Butler.
Beautiful. No matter what happens to you, want to make sure your loved ones are taken care of. That's why LegalZoom has made it easy to set up the right estate plan without leaving your home. Take care of your family today. The right estate plan at LegalZoom.com. My thanks to the Danettes, but more importantly, the guys behind the scenes as well. Have a safe weekend.